coming up, yours truly is going to say the real reason why there is the rise of lonely single men, and it's because of the women who have turned them off to relationships. It's nothing new, but we're going to talk about it here on this full-length edition of Depraved and Debaucherous. Thanks for joining me. This is King of Podcasts here with you. I really have been enjoying doing this show and talking about all these different issues, especially things like this. But I don't want to put myself in the same category as the manosphere or red pill masculinity or anything like that. I really feel like what I want to do is offer a more equal understanding, because I don't want to leave women out of the mix here, in the understanding that men and women are just not getting together like they should. The battle of the sexes has gotten so divisive in many recent years. Social media and online dating have ruined the way things were. And I really wish I could go back to where it was 20 years ago, when it was much easier to go ahead and meet someone because you had to. You didn't have all these different barriers in front. I mean, look at all the successful relationships we have from people that were with us. When you would think about it, when you ask people in the 30s, 40s, 50s about what they did to meet their significant other, someone they married and they were happily married to, and you think it was so taboo to go and say, oh, I met on eHarmony, or I met on, Bumble or Hinge or Tinder or Match or whatever. And let's just say online dating was better than it was before. I know, because I've tried all of them. And I remember Yahoo Personals, for me, was probably the best one there was. When you could connect with people on Yahoo Messenger or Love at AOL the same way, it was just so much better to connect with people and to find and easily go ahead and connect and know who somebody was. You had people that were really, that when they were on the sites, they were really interested in finding someone, and was not just kind of a lazy game, because things weren't so bitter back then. I mean, listen, I know Plenty of Fish and other places have really ruined the whole aspect. And listen, it goes both ways. For many decades, men would use the dating apps to get laid quick. That's what Tinder is now alone, for the most part. And, when I click through Tinder, I say, man, wow, there is just not much there. There's some beautiful women there, but nothing that stands out to me. And I get, there's the idea they have the super likes. I don't even like to use them, because there's somebody out there to go and find that's worthwhile. But that's where we are now. There are many. Now, in the story that came out a few weeks ago about the rise of lonely single men, look, that story came out, and the commentary is what really drew people into that subject. But let's talk about single guys and how many there are out there. And really, if they just were persuaded or had a woman that was really genuinely interested and intrigued by someone and could actually communicate to that man, hey, I like you. I think you're good looking, and I think you'd be a great person to get to know. I think we'd be compatible. Women, I'm not expecting them to go ahead and make the first move. We can't expect anybody to say that's the first thing that you should do. It can't be that way. But things need to change to where people can actually not feel afraid of meeting up in person. Because I think what's happening now is that the fear and the stigma that guys just want to get laid, it's starting to be over the top, out of proportion, in my opinion. And everything just continues to go this way, and it's not helpful. And there's so much scientific research out there that supports this argument. And so much that I've learned through the various experiences I've had talking to women for many years and understanding what relationships mean, what healthy relationships are, and which ones are toxic. But I know more toxic relationships than everything else because, I've seen people that have gone through it. I've known personal friends that have gone through it. And I've talked to more than enough girls that have told me stories that I really do believe that have actually happened. So I don't know what to tell you, but this is just bad. So anyway, another story came out following up on the story, and Domestic Towers at Quillette.com writes a story about Tinder and toxicity. So another story comes in. Now, Dominic actually goes in and does do a pretty good job of summarizing the story, which we talked about a few weeks ago here on the program. 2 weeks ago, to be exact. or it might have been 3, because it's August 9th that the story came out. Dr. Greg Matos, a couple psychologists in Psychology Today, wrote the article, The Rise of Lonely Single Men. He also has a TikTok show tackling modern relationships and has noticed that hundreds of female followers express differences for men or preferences who are emotionally available, good communicators, and share similar values. But he's basically getting those women that are really honestly into this. But what we see in front of us with all that's going on out there, the battle of the sexes argument, the one that gets the most salacious, tabloidistic, yellow type of headlines are the modern women. I do what I want. I want a high value man. I want 6 figures, a 6 foot tall man, and 6-pack abs and things like that, right? The Christian Grey archetype, basic. And if you think you can find that, man, there are not many of those. There are more men like myself. Very common to see more men like myself. But it doesn't matter what the man has in his brain, or if he finally was able to go ahead and find someone that really he wanted to adapt and connect to and attract to. Because listen, I'll tell you what, ladies, men will love hard if you give them the time of day. Why is it that guys are willing to let themselves be friend zoned so often? The nice guys, especially. I'm one of them. I've been one of them, but I've known better. And I look at things and I say that there are guys at a time when there used to be, the reason I couldn't get closer to a girl is because she had a boyfriend, the ones that I wanted. But now it's more often, it's not because the girl has a boyfriend. It's the girl that just isn't available because she's waiting for some unicorn to come in. Something that's like never going to happen. And if a woman really feels like she's going to be reasonable, then it's going to be out there. Listen, it's like something out of the Kevin Samuels episode. Or I watched one, a girl that's named Pearl Davis. And I remember she had somebody on that she spoke with that talked about, well, I need a man to give me an 8-carat ring, which is ridiculous. $200,000 ring from the get-go. And I'm just saying to myself, when did materialism become so important and status? Every woman's starting to believe that. All these young women starting to believe all of that. Plus, not just the materialism. They believe the material things they need to put on them. All this fake, unnecessary need to costume or to modify or to alter your looks. For whom are you trying to satisfy? Guys find you beautiful with or without the lashes, without the lipstick, without the hair put together, without, if you have implants or you have a BBL or if you have other things you did, lip fillers, injections, Botox, whatever. Remember, I believe some women might do some of the things they do because they want to be the next Kardashian, or it's as if Kim Kardashian is going to come to them and say, oh no, you're not good enough. You need to do more. As if going out and getting plastic surgery and doing constant changes to escape from who you really are, your natural self. I would love for men to be able to find naturally beautiful women, which there are plenty, more than plenty. And those that might not be, we're not looking for the Kardashian types. I never thought I was looking for anyone like that. No. We might fantasize about some women that we see that are just with ridiculous bodies, a Megan Thee Stallion, a Kylie Jenner, right? But it doesn't matter when you think about it. And it's also the Spanish culture doesn't have that too much. When I look at the MTV Video Music Awards this weekend, you look at Anita, you look at Becky G, naturally beautiful women. I mean, sure, there's things they did where they might have done, with the makeup and their look to really look spectacular. Tate McRae, another stunning young woman, but very natural looking. You could almost see there's not a whole lot that they did to themselves. Just naturally born that way. And men would want women like that, in my opinion, more than anything else. Not all these other girls that are out there when you go to Miami or other places where in the clubs, the women have to put so much on themselves, which is inauthentic. And that's the problem, is that we can't find people that are authentic anymore. Lonely single men cannot find someone that is authentically interested in them. And a woman that has an inkling of that to show interest to a man that way, that man should be able to have more than enough inclination to realize this girl, I'm interested in, I dig her, I have a crush on her, I want to be with her. The man will make the effort. If you're making the slightest bit of effort, just looking his way and smiling at him should be more than enough. And if he doesn't get that picture, you know what? Help him a little bit, especially if it's someone that you like. But we don't have that right now. So Dr. Greg Manos on this story on From the Rise of Lonely Single Men, to summarize from a few weeks ago, he concluded that men must be more emotionally connected and communicate better to achieve greater dating success. And if the relation skills gap is not addressed, it will likely lead to fewer dating opportunities. There are not enough women that are willing to get into relationships authentically without there being some kind of a paywall in front. Okay, when you have sugar daddy sites, when you have what's your price, when you have, all these different issues where friends with benefits is a commonplace thing. And the benefits are gifts and money and what's in my Cash App or my PayPal or my Venmo. Very common. There has to be now some kind of a trade. You're bartering or trading when the woman doesn't give anything but her beauty and her youth. Because some of the women that are out there that are asking for material things, first of all, they're not even going to do anything good with those material things because they probably will spoil themselves, and they're getting things that are just of their own value, but are not worth it to anybody else. So what if you got a Balenciaga bag, or you got, a Gucci belt, or you got some dress from wherever? What does that matter? Because all that can just go away. There might be a value to you as a woman, but you know what? There's no resale value. There's no investment behind that. I mean, there's so many times where women will wear clothes that they just dispose. Might wear a dress or something like that a couple of times and then just throw it away. So contemporary evidence, he says here, suggests that men, especially younger men, are lonelier than women. As a 2015 study reported in Time that nearly 2/3 of Tinder users were male. And the number of people using dating apps has grown exponentially. And the loneliness factor could be exacerbated by these apps because they offer women a cornucopia of choices, allowing them to be increasingly selective. Because now they don't have to be judged. And they feel like they have some opportunity to keep someone at an arm's distance. So when you're in a club and you might see all the guys that you might be interested in, you don't want them to be near you. And you're also worried about, the vulnerability of being out there. Now, remember, there are reasons why that happens, because we know that women growing up, when they get to that 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old level, you got to ask yourself, how many of those women might have gone through bad relationships in high school, or might have had things that happened to them emotionally, physically, and mentally, or sexually, to have altered them, to make them have a mental issue. A personal, just an issue at all that makes it hard for them to go ahead and want to be in love because they've been hurt, they've been burned, they've been abused, they've been used before. And I think that has to be said. I'm not talking about a rape culture here, but I think there are some women that are out there that when they were raised for material things, they have been punished and they have taken some damage for what they have wanted. If they wanted a guy that was a certain way, that was a bad boy, that had a certain attitude, but might have this way of being, very aggressive, but in the same way, he would be a protective kind of figure to you because that's what the thought process is. He would make you feel safe and secure. But then you realize that just turns on you because then the guy just turns on you and becomes what you didn't expect. And the thing that you thought he would protect you from, he's hurting you with. And we know that some women, they are not given the great advice as to the risks that are taken when they have sex with someone, if the risk is they might get pregnant. Because sure, that's okay about getting pregnant, but what about the guy that you decide to sleep with and you end up getting pregnant and then the lingering effects after that? People don't even care about that part anymore. So you got that to deal with. And then we go along and there are mixed responses to the article. In The Independent, Katie Nee put in her following feminist lecture. She says, quote, "The problem is straight men have not come to terms with their own toxic masculinity and archaic patriarchal values. They will not find their romantic lives improving until they take it upon themselves to dig deeper and find out what it is to be emotionally available. Until they learn that being a good partner means being open with your thoughts, feelings, and needs while holding space for your significant other. And they stop mansplaining and listen for once." There's a lot there that doesn't really help to explain. She didn't really give much of a detail just in that right there. But what's being said is this: emotionally available. Really, it's emotionally vulnerable. That your love and your affection and your interest in this woman will make you vulnerable to whatever she wants you to do, whatever she asks of you, whatever she expects of you. You should do this. You should be this way for me. Which, by the way, that can be toxic and narcissistic and manipulative on its own, because it does go both ways. In the story, they talk about, is it realistic to expect more agreeable men? Women invest more physical resources in producing offspring than men, so they will naturally be choosier when selecting mates. That's fine. Agreeableness is more prevalent in women because it's advantageous when caring for small infants and pursuing a long-term mating strategy. But women are not thinking about this. Many of them are not even thinking about this point, this step ahead. They're not forward-thinking at all. It's about the here and now. Because remember, young women can be very, very adventurous, change what they want to do with themselves on a snap of a finger. Change their look, change what they want to do in life, everything. Because they've been allowed to be free-spirited, free-thinking, and freely expressive. And they also don't want to have somebody holding them down and changing them because they're afraid that's what's going to be changed to them, or they're going to be put into some relationship that's not going to be good to them. But how many women get stuck in the trap of taking that materialistic route? Okay, remember this. For all these women that want all these material things, they get put into the trap of a guy that learns, okay, I know what to do to get this girl in my claws. A guy that's manipulative, narcissistic, and toxic. All right. Once that first month or 2 months are in, then as soon as she feels like she's in love and she can't emotionally detach herself of this relationship, no matter, all she's getting are spoils and nothing more significant. Material things that could go away, that are unimportant as much as it is the emotion, the heart. Well, that's the problem here. Because then once you're stuck in that trap and your heart is stuck, to get yourself out of there, no matter how many people will tell you you need to get out of there, you're stuck in a trap. You hit the honey pot. Now you got to get out. The same thing with guys hitting the money pot. It's this thing right here, emotionally available. It's another trap. And guys and girls need to get themselves out of being caught in these traps. Men, on the other hand, are more likely to pursue short-term mating strategies and more likely to be assertive and risk-ready because these traits facilitate the acquisition of resources, making them more attractive to women. Right. That you have something else to do with your life besides chasing women. They also go along and say that social role theorists argue that gender differences in personality are caused by society encouraging men and women to adopt traits consistent with stereotypical gender roles. That the typical sex differences in personality are more significant in countries like France and Holland, where the most negligible differences were observed in Botswana, India. That biological sex differences maximize as society becomes more equal for men and women. Right. Where when men and women are becoming more equal, as they say here, then that's the whole thing about women, becoming much more successful in society and wanting to be in the workforce and not wanting to be traditional mothers or caregivers. Because there was something to be said about the traditional roles. And because of that change, also, we've heard more than enough studies out there that when women want to be career minded and they don't worry about having a family or raising a family, which is their maternal natural instincts, then they're not even worried about that anymore. But then also, for those that are career minded, okay, some of the women that are out there, I want to have my own my shop for doing lashes, or I want to do a shop for selling hair or doing makeup and cosmetology. Like it's not much of a career out of that. It's something that you could do for a while, something that's just a passion project. But how much money can you really make off of that? Like, I've known enough women that have done that too, and they're not making much off of that. Or the OnlyFans, or the modeling. When your beauty and youth are around and that's available, and you're able to keep yourself relevant and important, and then continue to ingratiate your audience and do more and more and more for them, then the individuality, the specialness about you goes away and fades. Because all these different careers that some women have a short shelf life. Unless you're doing something really big in business and you become a CEO of a company and it's something spectacular, that's a different story. But I'm all for women becoming entrepreneurs and doing great in business. But some that are doing this, they feel like, well, it's just a money grab for them and it's not anything more than that. There's no real passion behind what they're doing. And because not only are they concerned with the fact they're making their own money, they need somebody to supplement their own income so that their own money becomes something they can play with, and it's not having to be used for, things they don't care about, like bills or car payments or water bills or insurance or anything like that. When asked about if dating apps are contributed to the phenomenon, there was a Quillette article by Bradford Tuckfield reporting that a tiny minority of men receive a preponderance of matches, and the disparity was comparable in scale to the income inequality of South Africa under apartheid. Men's situations do not improve once they try communicating, especially in these dating apps, except for the rare occasion there's Bumble, which forces women to initiate conversation. Men are more significantly likely to message their matches first. And 80% of men will only receive a reply of their first message 1/3 of the time. Honestly, there's just not much to really even want to even be a part of this. That's what sucks about all this. So that's part of the thing here. And if relationships and this roller coaster of the relationships is not worth it, one of the other problems that we people have a problem with as well is the fact of fidelity. That nobody's going into a relationship being, monogamous. Not at all. Instead, women are opting for alternative lifestyles, polyamory, swinging, open relationships becoming increasingly acceptable. Look, tattoos are acceptable, open relationships are acceptable. It's all out the door. Like, women with beauty and youth, they're going to try to put as many options as they have for them available, exercising every option. Even when they have somebody they're attached to, they're going to make it where they're not really attached or semi-attached. Semi-detached, as a matter of fact. So there was research that was recently found out on the circumstances under which people are less likely to use relationship protective strategies. The social norms which dictate which behaviors are accepted as normal. They put out 3 studies exploring whether the social norms observed when it comes to intimate relationships. And let's get into the results in here. Acceptable confessions of infidelity. One example they use is this. Participants reading confessions that describe incidents of cheating on either one's current partner or academic work. 1. I met a gorgeous man during an interview at his workplace. I got the job and started working with him. After a few weeks, he invited me for dinner. I didn't think twice and accepted his invitation. We kissed passionately after dinner. It was the best kiss ever. I don't live with my boyfriend, so he knows nothing about it. Then there's an academic cheating addition. I'm a student who works around the clock to fund my studies, so sometimes when I have to write an essay, I find it challenging or time-consuming, so I copy from other students. When things get tough, maybe I'll pay someone to write the essay for me. I just want to graduate and get this degree. The findings are that participants experience less commitment to the relationship and greater desire for alternative partners. That environments that foster great prevalence of infidelity lessen the motivation to protect the bond with the current partner, setting the stage for unleashing the desire for alternative partners. Right. When you decide to open up relationships with swinging or open relationships or polyamory, whatever that is, you're going to have much of a relationship anymore. You're opening it up, and the two people that were initially the bond in the relationship, that goes away. So that's one of the things they figured out here, and they're pretty much right on that. Another story here about relationships. New research is saying that women are not the gatekeepers of a relationship satisfaction. That the guys are the ones that are involved in having to initiate and continuously create relationship satisfaction for their mate. There was a long-standing idea that women's experiences and perceptions in their relationships carry more weight in determining how that relationship is likely to develop in the future compared to men's experiences. Happy wife, happy life, right? There was no evidence that women's satisfaction in the studies that was done. By the way, they were talking with 3,405 mixed gender couples with 21,000 plus reports of relationship satisfaction. This data set gathered over 9 years on average. There was no evidence that women's satisfaction was a stronger predictor of couples' subsequent relationship satisfaction compared to men's satisfaction. Yes, so the women had to be satisfied first. They are the priority. They are the prize. They also say here that the relationship satisfaction of both men and women were equally strong predictors of their own satisfaction in the future and their partners, whether it was day to day or year to year. Men's satisfaction matters equally in terms of how they feel and how their partner feels about the relationship in the future. So what's happening right now in your relationship is an indicator of how things are likely going to go in the future, both in the immediate future and over longer time frames. It should be wise to be paying attention when things are going better or worse than is normal for your partner. Reflect on why that is the case and double down on those positive things. If things are not going as well, address them now. Cope with the problems and contain them so they don't bleed over into tomorrow. When things are going down, talk about it. This is all the idea of the attachment theory. You need to be able to be effectively communicating with your partner, whatever that might be. And it doesn't matter if it's man and woman or if it's a mixed couple or it's LGBTQ or gay or whatever. Keep that all in mind. Someone's going to be the masculine, someone's going to be the feminine. This still applies. So that's what I got for the show. Keep it nice and tidy at 30 minutes. Thanks for listening in to another episode of Depraved and Debaucherous. And by all means, go to the website, check it out, so you can always keep yourself abreast of what's going on. ddradio.live. ddradio.live. That is the website where you can find the show. Subscribe wherever you find podcasts for this show. You'll find all the links there and all the social media for yours truly. So remember, it's okay. Guys, you're allowed to be single. Go out, do your thing. Know the things that are going on with the relationships, especially if you decide to go ahead and let other people into the relationships and change things up, and it no longer becomes monogamous. Because then all you start becoming are depraved and debaucherous.